Good afternoon, this is Mrs. Malik, and today I'm going to walk you through your pre-ACT score report. You should have that score report in your hands right now. If you were not here for the pre-ACT test that we took on October 8th, you will not have a score report. You can just sit back and take a listen to what I'm going to discuss with those who do have a score report. So that very first page has a lot of information, and we're going to spend the majority of our time really looking at this. The first thing that I want you to notice at the top is your composite. Your composite is an average of the sections of the test. And so you have different subjects that you took, math, science, English, and reading, and that is an average of that composite. So the composite is an average of those 4 test scores. There are several things that I'd like to look at on this particular area of your score report. The first is kind of like this legend over here in the sort of upper right-hand corner. That dark kind of blue line shows you what your pre-ACT score was. The shaded box on there shows you the range, and the kind of dark gray with the little bubble, or the dark gray with a number next to it on that graph area shows you the pre-ACT readiness benchmark. So there's a lot of information right here at the top. You see your composite, you see your individual subject scores. In the graph sort of below those scores, you see what the benchmark is. So for example, for math, the pre-ACT readiness benchmark is a 19. For science, the pre-ACT readiness benchmark is a 20. Pre-ACT readiness benchmark for English is a 14, and the pre-ACT readiness benchmark is a 19 for reading. So take a moment and really look at what you're seeing there at the top of that score report. Okay, remember, again, your composite score is an average of those 4 sections that you took. It's rounded to a whole number. It shows your overall performance, and it's very similar to a GPA, for example, on the pre-ACT. We talked a little bit about what that benchmark score is for each one of those subject areas. And that sort of light blue shaded box shows you a score range for that particular test. Okay. You also see a STEM score, kind of in the middle of that report. That's an average of your math and science scores. It indicates a readiness for STEM courses in college. Right there in the middle, it's that middle column, your STEM score. So that's your math and science together, an average of that. And again, this is a pre-ACT, so the score range for a pre-ACT is a 1 to 35. And that score range that you have is in those colored boxes on your report. All right, let's kind of move below the graph area to take a look at your predicted ACT composite score range. So based on how you performed on this pre-ACT, ACT, the company, gives you what they're predicting your actual ACT test score will be. So this particular student, their predicted composite is a 20 to 23, and then you can see for each one of the subject areas what that prediction looks like. And again, that is the prediction for what this test says you might get on your actual ACT when you take that in 11th or 12th grade. So if you're a freshman, you've got some time. If you're a junior, in April you're going to be actually taking the real ACT, and that's telling you right now what your predicted composite score might be. So here we go. That's what I just said, based on your pre-ACT performance, shows how you might score in April, helps you set some goals for improvement if you're not where you want to be, indicates areas where you might need a little more preparation. So think about what areas do you think you might need to focus on in order to improve that score. Also near this, under your predicted ACT composite score range, is a progress towards the ACT National Career Readiness Certificate. That indicates how these scores say you might perform in a career. So it says that you're likely, that composite score is what you're likely to achieve or obtain on the actual ACT. And the National Career Readiness Certificate is an assessment-based credential that documents foundational work skills. So important skills to be successful in a job across various industries and occupations. Okay, this slide just shows you what I said, and there is a page that you can visit to get more information if you are interested in that. The other thing that I would like for you to take a look at is the U.S. rank. So it's kind of in the toward the middle on the right-hand side there. This shows how you compare with your peers who took this test at about the same time. So it's students who took the pre-ACT this fall. And it shows in each one of the subject areas as well as your composite. And what that percentile means is that you scored the same or better than. So this student, this sample student, got a 68% composite ranking. That means that she scored the same or better than 68% of students who took the test at the same time she did. It really helps you understand your performance relative to students who are similar to you. All right, so the next piece that we want to focus on is those detailed pre-ACT results. So we're kind of looking at the bottom half of that first page. This breaks down your performance by subject and topic. It shows a number of correct answers you got and the total number of questions for each topic. It displays a percentage of correct answers. And this section is really going to help you identify your strengths and areas that you might need to improve. And so for our sample student, this is her detailed pre-ACT results. Let's just take a look at math, for example. She got 13 out of 21 correct, so that was 62% correct. And then what I think is really helpful is it further breaks down. So it tells you the areas within match or those detailed reporting categories. And perhaps this student needs to focus a little bit on statistics and probability. She only got 33% of those correct. So this is going to give you a more detailed look at the areas of the test and how well you performed on them, and might help you determine where you need to focus some of your efforts on. So based on how you performed here on your pre-ACT, now you can kind of start thinking about, what do I need to do? How can I start planning? If you're not happy with the scores that you see, maybe you found some areas where you're below the benchmarks, that might be some places for you to start taking a look at. Talk to your teachers, talk to your counselors about ways that you can improve those scores if there are areas where you are below the benchmark. Review skills and knowledge that are described in your report. There are suggestions to strengthen your abilities in each one of those subject areas. Okay, the next place we're going to take a peek at, just briefly, is open that folder up. Now, you're going to see on the sort of left-hand side sort of a wheel there of education career journey. There were no questions related to course plans and preparations for classes that you're going to take and how those align with the scores that you received and how you performed on this test. This piece of this report only happens when you take a paper exam, so you didn't answer any questions that were related to classes that you were taking and grades that you were receiving and career interests. So we're going to not pay attention to that left-hand page there. All right, now you all have, these are the answers that you gave and the correct answers that are associated with all of the problems on the test. So the last two pages contain the correct answers plus your answer. A copy of the test is in your Google Class of page. So Class of 26, Class of 27, Class of 28. Take a peek at that. You can see what the correct answer was, you can see what your answer was, you can see what the question was, which will really help you identify areas that you need to improve on. So that's for all 4 tests, right? So now what I suggest that you do is you review your scores and your benchmark comparisons. You identify those areas where you're below benchmark. You set specific measurable goals for improvement, and you create a timeline for achieving those goals. So if you're a junior, your timeline is until April, the first shot that you're going to have at taking that real ACT. If you're a freshman, you've got some more time to make those plans. There are some free ACT resources. These are links. This presentation will also be posted in your Google Classroom page so that you can actually click on those links and go to those sites. Review ACT test taking strategies. There are online tutorials and video lessons, so take a peek at those resources. There are some test taking strategies that you can focus on. You can review time management, you can practice eliminating incorrect answers, pacing yourself, developing strategies for difficult questions. Again, use those predicted ACT scores to set targets, creating a timeline. Consider the fact that you're taking the ACT if you're a junior in April. As I said, a copy of that test book will be in your Google Classroom page, so you can take a look at the actual questions and answers. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to have a chat with you about this.